Hello, what's up, Ham Fam? Welcome back to another episode of Heart as a Mother. If you're new or just tuning in, I'm your hostess with the mostest, Jizzy, and with me, as always, is my lovely co-host, Harleen V. And we are just two moms on a mission to create a safe space for other moms or dads or anyone really to share in the realness and the hardships and the wins and the losses and all of the above of parenting, while also being able to laugh at yourself. Because if you can't do that, what's the point?
Exactly. So welcome back, guys. So we just finished celebrating our first birthday.
Yes, we turned 1.
Yeah. And if you guys haven't seen it, we had a live stream. So check it out. It's up on our YouTube, and it's been an incredible journey and year. We want to thank each and every one of our Ham Fam that continue to join us week over week, and they're on this journey of parenthood with us. So it's not easy, but when we all have each other, it doesn't feel lonely.
Yes. And don't forget, we also have some exciting things coming your way. So be sure to check out our first charity golf classic that is happening on June 27th in support of One Body Village. So come join us for a fun-filled day of golf. Even if you don't golf, just come hang out. Like, we want to see you guys there. We're going to be drinking, of course. When are we not? And we have some amazing prizes that we're going to give away as well. And then we also have our Dope Dad Collective, which is dropping on June 14th. So it's a special Father's Day episode that we're having. I'm so excited. And I'm really looking forward to releasing that one.
Yeah, so in order for you not to miss out, be sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And once again, thank you to all that support us and who have bought us coffee. Thank you. And if you want to know how to support us, go to www.buymeacoffee.com/HA Mother. Support your girls.
Yep. And we'll put that link in the show notes as well. All right, let's get down to it. So here we always talk about connection, authenticity, and the value of togetherness, because it really does take a village with everything these days, and also how we can give back. And so today, we have a very special guest. She's an educator, speaker, entrepreneur, and world traveler. After living on 4 different continents with her family, she learned the value of community, which was the driving force for her to start Wine, Women, and Wellbeing when she moved back to Calgary. This community of women, or for women actually, quickly grew to 19 branches across Canada, with events, book publications, wine delivery, and an upcoming Canadian tour. She's passionate about supporting women and cheering on the growth of their businesses. And we want to welcome Lisa Webb.
Yeah.
Hi, Lisa.
Welcome.
Thank you, girls. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, we're excited to have you. So, first of all, wow, that is an amazing resume.
That's impressive, man.
And I'm in awe. So thank you for taking the time. I mean, I have read up on you, the world tour, everything else. You're busy for sure. So thank you for coming in to chat with us. You have founded Wine, Women, Wellbeing. You have 19 branches and growing. For our audience, they're going to be like, what is that? Because there's the word wine, and we love that.
Usually that's what it's like. That's the hook.
That's the hook.
They
You had to have the wine in there.
And they stay for the community. That's basically what happens. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about it and how you got started.
Okay. So Wine, Women, and Wellbeing started, really, if I'm being honest, it started out of a need that I had myself. Mm-hmm. My husband has a job that brings us all over the world. And in about 10 years, we lived in Paris, we lived in the south of France, we lived in Indonesia, we lived in the Congo, and then we decided we needed to come home for a bit, and then we came back to Canada. And we came back to Calgary, and we thought I was like, I miss those places, because it was really hard to move that many times and to rebuild my relationship and rebuild my friendships and rebuild my communities. And I found that the places that had women's communities already established, like that sometimes there was things happening where, oh, have you heard about this group? You can just go. You don't have to know anyone. You don't have to be invited. You can just show up. And then I would go to these things, and all of a sudden I'd have 5 new phone numbers in my phone, and I had instant friends. And I thought, I love that. I wonder if I could make that in Calgary. I wonder if I could do that. And starting something new like that is always it's kind of, it's very scary, because you don't know if it's going to fly, and it's always embarrassing if it doesn't. And okay, what if I try this and people think it's dumb and no one shows up and I'm just there by myself with my glass of wine. And then like, it's hard to make that step to do it. But once I decided that I was going to try, chose a name, put it on Instagram, had the first event, and the energy in the room, in that space, I knew it was going to be a thing. And it was, well, Wine Women and Wellbeing has been around for 2 years. We just had our second anniversary, and we are 19 branches across Canada. And one of those years was COVID. So I feel like that really speaks to the need for women to have community. And it doesn't matter. Like at first we were looking like, oh, let's see if we can have branches in other big cities. But I quickly realized that it doesn't have to be a big city because people want community no matter where they live. So we have communities really coast to coast across Canada. And we have, when it's not COVID, we have monthly events. And every month you can just show up and you don't have to be invited and you can go and meet new people. And we support women in businesses, especially trying to grow small businesses and help get exposure within their city. We have been publishing a book series where this is kind of like our COVID project, where different women could submit. We have different topics and they could submit a story to be part of this anthology, this series of books where every chapter is written by a different woman.
I love that.
So that's called Her Voice. And we have different topics. And because we all have a voice. You don't have to be a professional author, but we all have a story to share. So we're using these books to help women share their story because you don't know who it's going to help. And we have wine that's coming across Canada. And we're just like, it's growing into very cool ways that I never really imagined it would. But so freaking cool. Like I love it.
That is so cool. And I think that the organic growth that you're getting is something that we always talk about too, where we're just like, where we get a lot of feedback from people like, hey, I really resonated with this story or whatever. And you never know who out there is willing to listen and is looking for that kind of connection. But for providing women with that's awesome, because a lot of people will just keep to themselves and kind of just like, I guess this is my life now, how I'm supposed to live, until something like, for example, what you're doing comes along and they're like, wow, this is my jam. I love it.
Yeah. And I think that you don't always know that you're missing community until you find it. And then you're like, wow, okay, this is what it feels like to have a room full of cheerleaders behind me. This is amazing. And then they want to go back the next month because you just find these women who are supporting you. And then I find out that women who have met at our events started collaborating their businesses and they're going forward with these projects together. And they met at one of our events because they're just wanting to grow together and cheer each other on. And I think that's so cool. And like you said, sometimes people think like, oh, well, like for the books, for example, like, oh, I don't have a voice. I shouldn't be writing that because I'm not an author. But we all have a story. And when we can realize that we all have something that could help someone else, and once you make that step, you don't know how it's going to grow and turn into something and really be meaningful to someone else.
Right.
So I want to dial back a little bit where you said, is this going to work? I'm not entirely sure. Am I going to be the only one holding the glass of wine? When you pitched this idea to either yourself or I'm sure you have had conversations with people, were they like, you're crazy, Lisa, this will never work? Or was there like some resistance from people, or they're like, yeah, it might work, meh?
So because I've recreated myself so many times, and every time we moved, I had to basically start life over again, from ground zero, whether that was a job, a career, a hobby, a passion project. I got used to putting myself in uncomfortable situations. I was a teacher, and then I became an author, and then I became a travel writer, and then I was a blogger. Like I just did all these things. So I feel like people who knew me maybe weren't shocked. Then they're like, oh, I'm probably thinking, here she goes again. What's she going to do now?
Lisa with another one of her things.
And I told my husband, and I remember him being like, do you really need another thing right now? Because I kind of feel like we're drowning. And you're like, I had this look in my eye, and he's like, oh God, I know that look. Like, what is it? Like, I'm almost afraid to ask. And I was like, well, I have this idea. I kind of want to try this thing. And for me, I have enough self-talk that I can say, like, don't overthink it. If you have the idea, just do it. And don't overthink it, because it is so flippin' easy to talk yourself out of something. Yeah. And if you talk yourself out of something, that was that. It's what could have been. But if you don't overthink it and you're just like, okay, what's the first step? First step is get the Instagram page. Let's see if the handle's taken.
Yeah.
And once you have the handle, you're like, well, fuck it, I have the handle.
Yeah. How am I gonna
maybe I'll make a website.
That's a huge thing, though, getting the handle.
That is huge. And so now you're like, well, I'm kind of half in now. Like, and then I sometimes I take on too much, but I don't overthink things, and I just try it, because you don't know if you don't try it. Mm-hmm. And to be honest, I don't think that I ran it by a whole bunch of people to see what they thought first. I think I just did it and then said, like, hey, I'm trying this thing. Go follow my Instagram page. Like, there's only 2 people on there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I can't sit around and think about things for a long time, because I will convince myself that it's a bad idea. Yeah. But if I just do it, then all of a sudden I'm overly invested, and I'm like, well, I guess I'm doing that now. And that tends to be how I operate.
Do you think women in general are overthinkers? Because I will talk myself out of everything. And then I always tell people, if you want to do business with me and you say now, because if not, you will lose my interest and I'm done for. So when you have my energy, it's balls to the walls. Like, we got to do this now.
I'm all about balls to the wall. No joke. And I think you hit the nail on the head with energy, because there's something. So I was reading, one of our book clubs was Elizabeth Gilbert, Big Magic. And she talks about how creative ideas, no matter what that looks like, it might look different for you and you than it does for me, but creative ideas are kind of like floating around. And if you grab it, it's yours. But if you don't, it'll float by and someone else will take your idea.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are in the energy where that is going to work for you, and that's the direction you're going, I think just go for it, because it's true that the energy passes. And I know this from when I used to be a writer and a blogger. I would have an idea, and in my house, we call it a creative download. And my husband knows, like, back when we were living overseas, I would just get this look and I would grab my laptop and I would go in the bedroom and close the door, and he would just know, okay, like, Lisa's having a creative download. I'm like, I got to write this now, because if I don't write it now, it's gone. Because sometimes I would lie down in bed and I'd like, oh my God, I have this idea. And he's like, just write it tomorrow. And tomorrow would come, like, it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have it anymore. I can't even remember what I wanted to say. It was so good. So I stopped listening to him and just started listening to like, that happened a long time ago, but I started listening to myself. And when those moments would come, I would jump on that energy, and then all of a sudden I would write these things that were amazing. Or I've found now that when I get an idea, I need to act on it. I need to grab that energy, because it's not necessarily going to be around forever.
Mm-hmm. Well, I always okay, so when she wakes up in the morning, she sees like probably 50 text messages. And if I'm laying down, just like you said, it's like, I need to do it right now. I need to spit it out, because if I don't spit it out, I will forget. Or it's like, it didn't, like, if I try to explain it the next day, it doesn't sound like a good idea, versus if I explained it to you when it went through my mind. So it's, and she's like, what is this? I was like, I'm sorry if I'm waking you up right now, but da-da-da-da.
Yeah, it's that creative piece. And I think a lot of creatives, whether you're a musician or a writer or whatever that is, it comes and it passes. So you got to grab it when it comes.
Mm-hmm. So do you think that, did you find that in the last 2 years, you found that a lot of women are content with being lonely and being introverted because there wasn't a lot of resources in the past? And why do you think these women are reluctant to seek what they need?
That is a loaded question. I mean, I can't speak for other women as much, but I feel like now, when I look at our community and how I feel like people are kind of reaching out where they want to be a part of a community, maybe they didn't realize it before. Mm-hmm. And I always say to, I have a couple girlfriends in town here who ironically lived in the Congo at the same time as me.
Wow.
Wow, that's crazy.
Very
That
random,
is crazy.
very random. But we always say to each other, COVID is like Congo, because we were very isolated. Nobody spoke English. There was no amenities. There was nothing to do. We were living in the Congolese jungle, a non-English speaking country where it wasn't super safe to go out and there wasn't things to do. So it was kind of like COVID. You either stayed home or you made your own fun. And so I did that for 2 full years. I lived in the Congo. And then I came back to Calgary. We had a year, maybe a year and a half, if that. And then
COVID hit.
COVID hit.
Yeah.
And so my husband and I, at the beginning of COVID, we were like, we trained for this. So
We got this.
That.
And so for us, I feel like we recognized that early, that need for community, that need, and I actually have a hard time. I mean, maybe at certain points in my life, I just accepted that. But now, being the person who I've grown into, I have a hard time relating with why you wouldn't reach out for what you need. If I am struggling with my diet, maybe I'll reach out to a nutritionist. If I'm struggling with my mental health, I'm at a point in my life where I will reach out to a therapist. If I'm struggling for community, I will seek out community. And I feel like you either have that personality trait or you don't. I'm someone who does. I'm not afraid to ask for help. So the need for community is something that I felt that I needed. So I did my best to build it. And so I would hope, and I've had people come to me and say, like, thank you. Like, you literally changed my life. I moved to Calgary, didn't know anyone. Last week I told my husband that we had to move again because I didn't like it here. And now I feel okay. And for me, that is a game changer because that's what I needed. Like, you know how they say, like, use your pain to heal the world. Like, I've gone to so many places where I felt lonely and I needed community. And when I found it, I was like, this saved me. And so when I came back to Canada, I knew that that was something that could literally change people's lives. And for different reasons. Some people just want to, like, very like low key, I just want to go out for a glass of wine. And some people are like, no, I desperately need community. I need people in my life. And so my hope is that we've provided that space for people.
That's amazing that people reach out to you to say that.
I love it. It's my very favorite thing ever.
Yeah, I bet. And like what you were saying before is that a lot of women don't feel like they don't need it until they have it. And they're like, I didn't know I was missing this. Because that's how I felt like when I got pregnant. When I got pregnant, I didn't really have anyone to talk to because none of my friends were having babies. And then when I had this podcast and I started connecting with other women and other moms and just this whole community, I'm like, wow, I've been missing out this entire time. Like I love every single person that I've come into contact with because of this podcast. And it was something I never knew that I needed, but I really did. So that's great. And I'm all about creating communities through, just sharing your own struggle, because women then will realize that they're not alone, and then that they can come out of their shell and be like, okay, well, she had this story, so I have a similar story, and I can definitely hop on that train.
And I always say that when, like, if I'm talking on Instagram or something, and when we were having events in real life, I said, just so you know, you don't have to come with a group of girlfriends. Like, you can come by yourself to meet other people. And if you say, I don't want to go to a place where I don't know anyone, hello, you know me, and I'm there. So just come and say hi.
Yeah.
Because I've been the person who walks into a room where I know no one. That can be a very intimidating thing. And I think you have to really have your self-confidence built up to be able to do that. Maybe not everybody's there. So I always made a point of saying, like, I built this because I needed it. I've built it because I've been the person to walk into a room where you don't know anyone. So don't be afraid to do that because I've done it, and that's why we're here.
Yeah. Obviously, we're a parenting podcast. Why do you think it's so important that women empower each other? Because we always talk about shame here, women shaming other women, and it's almost like, why do we do that to each other? Like, I don't understand. So, tell us or tell our audience why you think it's so important that women need to stick to each other, why we need to uplift each other, because I find that when we stick to our own little cliques, like, because I did that, and I was like, oh, I don't need any more friends, and I didn't grow. That's the key word. I've probably had hyper growth in the last 3 years because I opened my eyes and doors to other women who aren't like me. And my God.
Yes, because also sometimes you don't know who you're going to meet, and you don't know who you have the potential to meet and how they can impact your life until you open yourself up and put yourself in those situations where you have the opportunity to meet different women. And all of a sudden your path can completely change. You can be doing something that you never would have imagined you would have done because you met someone who was completely different than you, and they just planted a seed or asked you to join them. Or I just think that when we support other women, we have the potential to grow in a way that is just almost impossible to do on our own.
Yeah.
That's what we say here, like that it really does take a village.
100%.
I would not be sitting here right now if it weren't for the women that I've met along the way. Definitely.
I agree.
And I feel like sometimes some ideas that you have and you run it through different types of women, or just even the passing, even when we're sitting down with our guests, we'll talk about something. I was like, can we talk about this after? You know, like there's always an idea, and then they help you refine it. It's not necessarily because I find that, especially with business owners, and I tell like my friends, it's like, it's not really hush hush. Like, don't feel like I'm going to steal your idea. Like, I'm going to run it and I'm going to talk to people about it, and sometimes outside, and it evolves into something bigger than you thought it could be. And somebody out there can push you to propel it that you didn't think you would. So I feel like I always like tell people, it's just take the advice, or like share the advice. It's not like they're trying to take it from you. They're gonna literally propel you.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, you know how they say that if you have a dream or you're trying to build something, and some people like to like keep it to themselves and not say anything, and they say like, write down your goals, write down your dreams, tell people about them, because that's when they become real.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes they shift and they take a different form, and they go into a place that you never thought or imagined they would be. And I find oftentimes that's better. But if you keep that to yourself and you don't talk about it, if you don't talk about it, you oftentimes don't act on it, or don't act on it in the same time frame. You miss that energy window. But I think that once you start talking about something and sharing it with people and telling people about it, then it's in the front of your mind, and you're like, well, I guess I should do something about this now. Yeah. And it takes a life of its own, kind of.
100%. Yeah, I totally believe in putting things out there into the universe for it to kind of just manifest itself. And that's something Har always tells me, is that you're never going to get what you want if you don't ask for it. And I was always in my shell. I was very shy. I never spoke up. And so sometimes when I get really heated about something, Har's like, I love this. I love when you're mad. I'm like, why? Why do you like when I'm mad? She's like, cause you just have a voice. You're voicing how you feel. And I love that. And so that's what I've learned too, is that like I came out of my shell because I learned to ask for what I want. Because if I just kept it to myself, if I never said I wanted to start a podcast, obviously we wouldn't be here.
That's right.
Yeah. And she always says, oh, I want to do this. I was like, so why don't you? I don't know. She's far from out of my reach. And I always tell her, I was like, no one is ever far out of your reach, because they're just like you. I don't care how many followers somebody has. They're not better than you. Just ask. And if they say no, then it just really isn't meant to be. And if they say yes, and I think 99% of the time when she'll come back, she's like, oh my God, she said yes. And oh my God, I did this. I was like, it's you. It's the energy you bring. It's everything that's got to do with you, and not necessarily me. You just did it on your own. And I just had to give you a little kick on the butt and just tell you to go do it, because it's literally in you. So you guys have courses and educational in your group. Tell us like what kind of training courses and stuff you guys offer, and how does it work?
So this is brand new, just started. It's called Get Schooled. And because what happened was I started looking at the women around me, and I was like, holy shit, we got a lot of really rockin' women in our community. And I mean, of course, in our bigger community, but mostly I'm looking at the 19 branches that we have and the women who run that, who run those branches. I think there's 26 of us maybe, because some branches have 2 girls that run the branch.
26 across 19 branches?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
26 women, because some of them pair up. Mm-hmm. My number might be wrong. 19 branches is for sure. I don't know exactly of our girls, but when I started looking at who we had and the expertise that, I mean, makeup artists, interior designers, teachers from kindergarten to college level.
Wow.
Business mentors for women. Like, I could just go on and on and on of what kind of amazing women are in our community. I'm like, we need to be taking advantage of this. We need to be showcasing this. And one of the women in our community, her job is to develop curriculum at college level. And she also has her own business that helps women in business. So I'm like, you help women build their business, and you develop curriculum level for college, like college courses. We need to harness your superpower and like bring this goodness out to our community. So she's started developing courses. We have a professional home organizer as one of the girls in our community. So we started with that course, and we're talking about, so we're going to roll them out one at a time and do like a photography course and an interior design course. And we have all these women who are doing exceptional things, and we have a mental health therapist on board. And so like, why not take advantage of these things and help other women grow? So, and especially it's COVID, we can't gather and have our monthly events like we normally do. Mm-hmm. So we're just looking at how else can we grow our community and bring value to women who have kind of stuck with us, because COVID is one of those times where if you're in the community of events and in real life events and you can't do that, you have 2 choices. You can either say, okay, well, that was fun, I'm glad I had that for a little while. Or you can think, okay, well, like for me, it was never an option to just like fold was not an option. And again, having lived overseas for so long, my kids developed their relationship with their grandparents via Skype, because Zoom wasn't a thing then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But we lived overseas until they were grade school age. So every day they would see their grandparents online. And that for us was normal. And I knew that you could still build a relationship and have that connection online, because that's all we ever knew. And I think that anyone who has family overseas, or not even overseas, but on the other side of Canada, we just lean on technology so heavily now that I thought, okay, well, that's our pivot. That's what we're going to do. We're just going to go online until we can gather in real life again. And so we just started thinking like, what can we do online besides sit in front of Zoom? Let's try and make it a little more interesting, a little more fun, education, bring value. So that's how we started our Get School program, which is brand spanking new.
That sounds super fun.
Yeah.
I love that.
Like women can just go and search for the things that they always wanted to do, especially because COVID is like no better time to do it, right? Mm-hmm. So that's great. And just like your husband said, you guys have trained for this.
Yeah. Like legit, like technology, isolation, everything else.
Bring it. I got this.
Oh my gosh.
It's not new to you.
There's another thing on your website too, which is, I think, what was it? Sorry.
The wine box?
The wine box.
Oh yeah.
What is it?
Thank you, COVID.
Tell us.
You birthed this.
And how can we get a hold of it?
Okay, so the wine box is like another like beautiful thing that has come out of COVID, because, well, I think it just kind of gave us time to get a little bit more creative. And we were approached by, I don't even want to say it because I don't know the technical term, whether a company. We were approached by a company who said, you have this community of women who love wine. And when really it's funny because that was not our focus. Like our name is Wine Women Wellbeing. Wine is first. But really I was heavy on the well-being at the beginning.
Yeah.
It was well-being, it was connection and community, and wine was like, well, it was the social lubrication that the women needed at the events. I was like, you come and have a glass of wine, because the difference is sometimes, like I would always say, if you go to an event and you meet someone, you say, oh, I met this woman. But if you go to something and you have a glass of wine and then you meet someone, you say, oh, I made this new friend. because you're just like a little bit more relaxed and just
Yeah.
that social aspect is there. So that was the only wine piece at the beginning. But then we got approached by a company who said, hey, why don't we start this like wine to the door? I was like, oh, hell yes. Let's start
Yeah.
wine to the door.
Yeah.
So we had our first box. We had like a trial run, like a soft launch pilot project to see if it would work. And it did, funny enough. People want wine to their door, I'll tell you that. So what happened was the first box, it was 4 bottles of wine. It is $79.99 for those 4 bottles of wine because we get a really good deal through the wine people.
Yeah.
And you can get it delivered anywhere in Canada.
That's a great deal, by the way.
It is.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal. And it's because of the deal that they can give us that it's better. It's lower price than what you get in the store. So that's where the bonus is there.
And you don't have to leave your house.
And you don't have to leave your house. And what we did for the first box was we highlighted women in the wine industry. So either women who were in some way responsible for bringing these wines out into the world. So that was our first box. And it was very well received. And right now, our next box, we're calling it the spring staycation box because no one can go anywhere. So these are like really like easy sipping patio wines for your backyard. And then going forward, we have like different themes for the months coming up. And every month we'll kind of have a different theme on the wine that is in the box. And then we have partnered with some smaller startups and kind of like just women who are trying to build their own business. And for example, one of them is an infusion company. They like infuse alcohol here in Calgary. And so they're putting like a sangria mixer into the wine boxes.
Cool.
And so it's just a way to also feature women in business that are also trying to grow.
Nice. So is that kind of like a subscription type thing where you sign up and then every month you get it, or is it like just a monthly thing?
You do not have to sign up. It's not like, it's just a monthly thing where you can go. And so also you can gift it to yourself, but if it's your girlfriend's birthday, you can go and buy her a box and send it to her house. Or we launched it for Mother's Day. So you could send a box to your mom for Mother's Day. And so it's not auto renewal. So you can just go, you can buy 1 month and not buy 1 month and then buy the next month if you have an occasion or something like that.
That's amazing. Nice.
Oh, I'm like, we usually drink wine here, but we've been like, let's not drink wine just because
We've gotten too rowdy in the past.
Yeah, we've gotten too rowdy before and after, and then
I can see that.
and then I'm
I
like,
can relate. No judgment. Don't worry.
and then I'm like, oh shit, I can't drive. I gotta sit here
Yeah.
for another 2 hours
Yeah.
because I can't get behind the wheel.
Yeah.
I should have brought the wine box. We could have camped out.
Right. Oh, next time. Next time.
Next time. So, pre-COVID, you had all these events. Like, how has that impacted, obviously, the community? Like, tell us, like, if we were going to go to an event in, like, say, Calgary, where you're hosting it, like, what does that look like?
So basically, our events in Calgary are always at Venue 308 downtown, which is a beautiful, gorgeous space. And you come in, you get a glass of wine. If you don't want to have a glass of wine, you grab a glass of bubbly. And there's some snacks. Again, we're going to need to reimagine that post-COVID because there used to be just like, but really casual.
Yeah.
Casual, not like, it was always like, I made a post once that was really kind of funny because I said, Wine, Women, and Wellbeing, giving you a place to wear your pleather pants. because it's a night out. Like, people do dress up, and Venue 308 is a beautiful space. So it is a space. It's a reason to go out. It's like going out for dinner with your girlfriends. You put your nice clothes on.
You want to look
You want
great.
to look nice. You wash your hair that day. It's a
Yeah.
big deal, right? And so it is dress up, feel good, go out, have a glass of wine. But it's not like, this is where my mind was going with this, because before we would have just like little bowls of chips out on the table. Like, it's not pretentious. You're not getting a meal. It was just like something to snack on, because when you have a glass of wine, you need the salt, right?
Yeah.
You need some chips or something. But it wasn't about any of that. It wasn't about like the fancy decor, or it wasn't like you were going out for dinner. It was just more like, come oh my God, grab a glass of wine and then introduce yourself to someone. And it was lots of times we got to a point where it kind of grew to be something really cool, because at first people would come and they weren't sure what to expect. But a year in and a year of seeing pictures of different events on Instagram, and they'd be like, oh yeah, I can see myself there. Yeah. So we are by no means a networking business, but I feel like that was a happy accident. People who wanted to network and grow their community for their own small business, people who were entrepreneurs, people who wanted to collaborate with other people and support other women in the community, found themselves coming to these events. And then it grew to a really cool place where girls were coming with their mom.
Yeah.
And then girls just wanted to go out for a night out with their girlfriend, and them and their girlfriend would come. And so we grew. So it was people from like 30 to 70. There was no age. I'm just using that generally. I mean, I'm sure there was younger, maybe older.
Yeah.
But like my mom would come when she was in town. She's not always in Calgary, but when she is, she's like, oh, good, it's a Wine, Women, and Wellbeing night. And it was okay. Like everyone was really welcome. So it just became a really beautiful space.
And we actually hosted an event for International Women's Day, and it was received, actually, it was our first time, and I was like, oh my God, I can't even believe, like, all the women that wanted to generally, like hear us and listen to us. And most of the women, what they liked was that we pushed them out of their comfort zone. Mm-hmm. And I encouraged, and even till now.
This was online, by the way.
This was all online. Yeah. And the one thing we wanted to do was like, we get on Zoom calls at work and all that stuff. Like, I don't want another Zoom call or like just listen it. So we tried to make it interactive. We just shipped out boxes to everyone. And the biggest thing was that we told everybody, take a look at your screen online, pick a name. Now go find them. Go message them directly. Go for a walk. Find out who they are. Don't find anyone without your...
that.
It forces you to kind of be to be uncomfortable, because I used to be like, I have big things that I wanted to do, but I sat in the back and I stayed quiet until I like found that voice. And now I'm always like nudging everyone. I was like, or if I see someone that's just sitting there or not doing anything, it's like, hey, how's it going? Oh, by the way, I know so-and-so, and here, come talk to so-and-so. And I feel like we just need to do that as
100%.
Even as organizers and stuff like that. So we want to dial it one more time back. You have a family.
I do.
How many kids do you have?
I have 2 girls.
2 girls. What are their names?
Okay, are you ready for this? Because my girls were born in France.
Oh, here we go.
And my husband, he's Francophone. So we have very French names in our girls, which is funny because in France, their names are like Stephanie and Jennifer, basically.
Yeah.
But when you say them here, people are like, whoa. So I have 2 daughters, 7 and 9. And my oldest daughter, her name is Océane.
Oh.
And then my other daughter's name is Elodie.
Oh, that's so cute. Oh my God. Elodie. She's so sophisticated.
Yeah,
oh my
super
God.
sophisticated.
You're going to be like, meet my daughter, Elodie.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, I find like, I'm thinking in my head, like this grand, like ball, like just introducing her. This is my daughter, Elodie.
Yeah, my name's French, but people butcher it. It's Giselle.
Giselle. Well, I mean, I call her Gisle because I think there was a story behind it. I was just laughing. So, you're a busy mom. Like, how are you juggling your business, your husband, yourself, and your kids?
That's a great question. I'm probably dropping balls left and right, but I just pick him up and keep juggling, keep juggling. When we first came back to Canada, up until Christmas time, I was also teaching full time. Oh. So things like when I built Wine, Women, and Wellbeing, I built it as a full-time teacher. And so when I look back now, I'm like, how the hell did I do that? Because I also think COVID has changed things, and like everything feels a little bit harder to do. Yep. So I don't necessarily know how to answer that question. I am surviving like the rest of us. I probably flub and like have not so fantastic moments.
As we all do.
Like the rest of us. But I feel like when you do something that you love, it doesn't feel like work. And I know that sounds so cliche. Find something you love to do.
But it's true, though.
It is so true. Yeah. I work And I do, like, Wine Woman and Wellbeing didn't happen by accident. And when people say, oh, it came out of nowhere. No, actually, it did not come out of nowhere. It came out of late nights, early mornings, freaking sweat on my brow. My husband closing my laptop at midnight and putting me to bed because I would get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I would work out. I would do answer a few emails. I would go and teach all day. I'd come home and I'd make dinner and I'd do kids' activities, put the kids to bed, and then I would work until midnight.
Wow.
And I would get up and do it all over again. But that work until midnight part was so fantastic. I loved doing it.
Yeah.
And just doing all the things, as you know, when you're starting something, there was no one to do my social media, and I didn't have a brand kit. I was just making all the things on my own. But I loved doing it so much that I did that for years without batting an eye.
Yeah.
And things for sure felt like the house cleaning. No, I didn't do that. I'll tell you that right now. The things that I didn't like doing, those were the things that the laundry, it would just pile up for weeks on end. But the Instagram account was on fire. You just find the things that you like to do and you move towards those things a little bit more.
Yeah.
So it's a lot, but when you love it, it doesn't feel like a lot.
True. And I agree, because this is a lot. To keep this podcast going is a lot, but it hasn't really felt like it.
No.
We celebrated our 1 year and I couldn't even believe it's been 1 year.
But also this is probably your night out, right?
Yes.
I know that, because Wine Woman and Wellbeing was that was work. That was my night out.
No,
that was
I
my
love
best
it.
night of
Yeah.
the month. I was okay,
This
go to
is-
Wine Woman and Wellbeing, curl my hair.
Yeah, no, this
And
is honestly our favorite night of the week, because we always talk about how every time we leave the studio, we leave better people.
100%.
Because we learn so much from the people we get to sit down with. And who gets to say that every week we get to meet somebody new, learn about their story, their journey, and share it with everybody else.
And then your circle just goes
exactly
and the women, and then down the road you might want to connect with someone, or someone wants to connect with someone who's doing something, and you're like, I got someone for
I
you.
love that.
Right? And you're
Yes.
just like, well, you've done a podcast for 52 weeks. I know 52 amazing women. I think that's a gift.
Totally. And a huge privilege for what we get to do, and utilizing this platform to help others and to help others grow just as we have grown.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I love it.
And the fact that it's not necessarily just our journey. We want everyone to know it's their journey too. And it really depends what you're going to do with it. But just to reach out to us. And it's, I don't know, we get even men. And I was like, oh my God, they're listening to our podcast. And they resonate a lot to the Dope Dad episodes that we have. And then it just was you know what? I think we need to open this up, because there are a lot of men who also struggle. Let's build those men a community how women is building, so they have their own safe space to talk about, their hardships as being parents. So I know you were what questions are you guys going to ask me?
Yeah, tell me.
Okay, here we go. Here we go, Lisa.
No, I had no warning.
Okay, here we go. Busy. You put the kids to bed. How do you and your hubby keep things spicy still?
Where's the
Yeah, exactly.
That's Har's favorite question.
Everyone
wants to know.
Actually, Har probably wants
Because
to know.
that's a struggle too that women have sometimes.
We did have entrepreneur business. She has a small business, and she said, sometimes I tell her, sorry, Shar, I'm retelling you the story again. She's like, I'm so tired. Sometimes I don't want to do it. And I said, girl, you don't have 5 minutes to give your husband a hand job, a blow job, whatever. It's 5 minutes. Move away from your business. So what do you guys do to keep things spicy at home?
Remember how I told you sometimes he just walks by and closes the laptop? I'm like, okay.
That's your cue.
I get it. Or if it's a weekend, this is too much information. Mom, if you're listening, close your ears at this point.
Girl, we've spilled a lot on this show.
So funny. If it's a weekend, for example, Lisa, this is way too much information. But when the kids are little and they're gone for a nap.
Yeah.
But when your kids are little, I had 2 under 2, you're exhausted by the time nighttime comes.
Yeah.
So when it was nap time, I would just sometimes I get the eyebrows and be like, okay, nap time. I know what that means. When the kids are going for a nap, we're going to go for a nap too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But our kids obviously don't nap anymore. So sometimes if it's a random weekend and I hear my husband say you guys should go play outside. I'm like, oh, I know what that means.
Yeah.
And just randomly out of the blue.
You're like,
like,
where were you?
me just brush my teeth. Or he'll be
love
like,
that.
do you girls want to watch a movie? And he doesn't mean like, do you want me to watch a movie with you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He just means like, girls, go downstairs and watch a movie.
Yeah.
And I just go upstairs because I know what
Then he knows.
I love you guys have code.
You got to get creative, but it didn't even mean to be a code. Like, that's just like, it's not a code to me. Well, I guess it is, but that's our, like, I'm like, I know that's the cue.
Well, you got to do what you got to do, man.
do what you
Especially when
gotta
they get
do.
older, you have to get more creative. Because like you said, nap time's no go
nap
anymore.
time is no more. And then, like, we are fortunate enough to now, like, we have a big, beautiful home in Calgary. But when we lived in the Congo, when we were in this tiny apartment, that was like, okay, like, how's this going to go down? That's when it was like, turn the movie up real loud.
That is so crazy that
we
you
just go downstairs.
lived in the Congo.
We totally did. And not for like, I went to the Congo this one time, like full 2 years.
Yeah. Wow. That is crazy.
What's the weather like in Congo?
Hot as hell and humid. Like, it's so hot.
But better than here, though, because it's supposed to snow on Thursday.
So I prefer hot over snow in May.
Yeah.
But it's funny how you get used to something, because I remember thinking that I was going to die of heat when we got there. I was like, my body's not made for this. And the first year, their cold season goes down to about 25 degrees. That's as cold as it will get.
Ugh.
And I remember, obviously, all the pools were outdoor. And I remember bringing my girls to swimming lessons, and it was 27 degrees. And their swimming instructor said, Madame, like, he speaks French, no swimming today. It's too cold. I was like, it is 27 degrees outside. This is as hot as it gets where I come from.
Yeah.
And swimming was cold. And the second year it was too cold for swimming. The second year I was there, I remember it being 27 degrees. And I was like, we're not going swimming today. It's too cold. And then we came back to Calgary that summer, and it was 22 degrees out. And in Calgary, when it's 22 degrees and sunny, that's a nice day.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Huh.
And my girls, we were at my mom and dad's house, and my girls came running back inside. And I remember my daughter, who at the time was in thinking grade 1, and she's like, I need another pair of pants. It's too cold outside. And more socks. They were just so cold. And I remember my parents took them to the YMCA, and they were like, Mom, you wouldn't believe it. The pool was inside.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my God, you were having such weird reverse culture shock, because
Reverse
they
culture
lived
shock,
in
yeah.
Indonesia and the
Yeah.
Congo. They never
Yeah.
saw an indoor pool.
Exactly.
Wow.
I'm like, they're all going to be inside here, just so you know.
Wow. They're very well traveled then.
They are.
girls.
How
Extremely.
old were they when you guys started traveling?
Well, they were born overseas. They were born in France.
Oh, okay,
right,
okay.
right.
So the only time they went somewhere, the first time they moved somewhere to live that spoke English was here in Calgary 2 years ago.
Interesting. How are they adjusting?
They're good. I mean, it's funny because my husband and I met here in Calgary. So for Calgary, for us, was a homecoming. Every time we went to a different country overseas, we kind of had to have this like period. I feel like it was usually from September to Christmas, where we were like, oh, this happened and this happened. And oh, did you see this? You'll never guess what I saw in the grocery store. And it was all these really random things. And then we came to Calgary, and it was just like, boom, right back into life. We didn't even discuss anything. And my kids had always gone to French international school. And then, so because of that, when we came back to Calgary, we put them into the Francophone school board, so full French, but also in Calgary. So it's kids who, their cousins all speak English. They go and play hockey, and it's in English.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until, like, I think 2 weeks after, my kids had been going to school every day in Calgary, and they were always overseas, the only kids who had a parent who spoke English, which was me, because my husband spoke French. And then my daughter, after 2 weeks, said, Mom, do you know that the kids, like all the kids in my school, know how to speak English? I was like, oh my God, we did not do a good job of like prepping you for this. I was like, yeah, you're in Canada now, like in Calgary, everyone's going to speak English. But we didn't even think to tell them that, because for us it was so normal that we didn't even have to have the conversation.
Right.
And so there was just funny little things like that, where like they went into Walmart, they were like, oh my God, look at all this stuff. And I was like, it's crackers.
Wait,
Like,
That's actually
France
really
doesn't
cool.
have Walmart, right? Like
No.
no,
they're too fancy for
they're
that.
too fancy,
Super fancy.
Yeah.
Everything
like
is like
little
organic markets down
boutique,
there.
small. They're starting now. You'll find like one kind of bigger box, like superstore type store.
Oh, okay.
But really, they're still about like the Wednesday and weekend markets. and their fridges are small, their kitchens are small, so they're buying in small quantities. They're going to the grocery store 2 or 3 times a week because they don't have the pantries that we have. Like, they just don't have the kitchen space to house
There
that.
is no
There's
Costco.
no Costco. Although now there's one outside of Paris, and I'm just so curious to know, like, if they have like giant bags of croissants or
Did
what they
you
have.
say a Costco right outside Paris?
Yeah, on the on the
interesting.
suburbs of Paris, they have a Costco now. Apparently, it's brand new. I don't know what that looks like or what they sell there or who's buying the stuff because
It's going to be a fancy I'm pretty sure it's going to be
Yeah.
a fancy Costco.
giant containers of foie gras.
Is the life so now that you're back here, is the lifestyle like different, or like do you think you and your family will in a couple of years will want to travel again?
Like travel or move? When is
Probably move.
This, when is this airing? When is this episode airing?
A couple of weeks.
In a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Watch my space.
Okay, we will definitely.
I'm gonna just like say like, go watch
Watch
me on Instagram. Keep an eye
Okay.
because
Oh, we are.
We are.
We are.
We're already friends. What are you
There's,
talking about?
For sure.
What are you
there's-
talking about?
There's
There's
some things in the works.
Yeah,
Nice.
There's things.
I can't
brewing.
wait to hear that. So let's talk about your company again, because I'm curious. You got to 19 different cities. So we always hear, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. What was your process in curating this group of like-minded women who wanted to do the same thing that you wanted to do, and obviously got you to 19 different different branches? Like, how did that look?
So, I did my master's in educational leadership way back 2006, I think. And my roommate, when I lived in Nova Scotia, was this beautiful, fierce, professional development junkie. And so her and I remained friends. We kept following each other online. She watched me in all my years overseas. Then she watched me come back to Canada, and she was always a really great cheerleader from afar. I mean, we lived on the other side of Canada. We lived on the other side of the world. And then once in a while, she'd just send me a message. She's like, I freaking love what you're doing. I love what you're building. I love watching you grow. And I was like, thank you. And she was just so genuine about it. But that's just who she was, and that's how she's always been. And so one thing led to another, and Wine, Women, and Wellbeing was doing really great in Calgary. And she's like, I wish we had something like that here. And I said to her, like, well, let's do it. Like, let's try and build that there. And she was like, what do you mean? I don't know. And so, like, over the course of months, her and I were just back and forth talk, like, how could we work this out? And so together we figured out how to make like a cookie cutter branch. And I made like this giant doc that I could just like give you to start a branch, and like exactly what I do for events, how to build it, the whole thing.
Nice.
Made a website, because I didn't even have a website. I just built Wine, Women, and Wellbeing off Instagram and Eventbrite. And so I built out a website, and it took a while, but I kind of created a way to pass it off to her and say, like, here, do this, see if it works in Halifax. And so she did it. And I remember her first event, and we had a 3-hour time change. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so nervous. I wonder how it's going. Oh my God, oh my God. And then she called me after, and she's like, that was freaking amazing. I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight. The energy is just wild.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, we got something.
Yeah.
And so the second branch, I also knew the girl who started it. And after that, it tended to just be people who reached out on Instagram and said, like, hey, I see what you're doing. I'm watching you. Do you have a branch in whatever city?
Yeah.
And if you don't, can I bring one here? I'm like, okay. And since then, we've obviously grown where we have like, this is what you need. This is how it goes. And now we're like a well-oiled machine.
Yeah.
But that first one, getting that first baby off the ground, it was a process. And now we've made it a bit of a fine science.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah,
for the second year.
congratulations.
I
Thank
mean,
you.
19 branches, holy, and you're probably going to grow like,
Yeah,
I'm
take
so
this internationally.
Well, yeah, and I'm so excited because when COVID, like I yearn for these things, so I'm going to look for sure. So you're going on tour.
We are.
Yeah, so you have this upcoming tour called the Manifest Tour, which is going to be in 2022. So you have quite the lineup for this tour. So you have Dr. Jody Carrington, yourself, Jess T2?
T2, yeah.
Sorry if I butchered your name. Caitlin
Bristow.
Bristow. So what can we expect from this tour, and why do you think it's a must to attend?
I think you can expect wine, women, and well-being, but like bigger and bolder. Like I always say, like I've been saying over COVID, like we are going to come back, and not just us, wine, women, and well-being, but I feel like all of us, when COVID is done, it's going to be like the roaring 20s. Like people are going to lose their minds and want, like, get me a flapper dress. Like I am ready to go.
Yes.
Like we're going to want to go out and have fun. And this is just going to be like a big, we left our last event before COVID was Jillian Harris. And we had this, like, it was the Thursday before everything closed for COVID. Like Thursday, Friday, everything was closing. And then Monday school was done for kids.
Yeah.
So we just made it. And everyone was like, well, that, at least we left on a high note. Like that was literally the last thing we could do. And so during COVID, we kind of thought, well, what can we do to come back on a high note? And we knew we had to give it, we changed the date 3 times. Like initially we thought this fall, and then we moved it to January, and then we moved it to March of next year, just to be safe and to not have to deal with changing dates and all of that. Yeah. And I mean, Caitlin, in and of herself, she's from Edmonton. She was the Bachelorette. She's now the host of the Bachelorette. She won Dancing with the Stars. She owns Spade and Sparrows. She has her own, dare I say, cult following. Like people love her. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people are just coming for the excitement of that. And Jodie Carrington as well. Jess Tatu, if you've ever heard her speak, she is amazing. And actually it was Jess and I were out for a drink, and she kind of like pitched this to me and said, like, you should go on tour. Like, I should go on tour. And it's just one of those ideas that was so big and bold and out of my even mental capacity at the time. And I was like, well, yeah, maybe. And she's like, I'll go with you. I'll be your opener, wherever you want to go. Canada, let's do it. I was like, holy shit, okay. And I came home, I told my husband, I'm freaking going on a tour across Canada. This awesome chick I just met. And he was like, whoa, okay. Well, I feel like you just leveled up over that Moscow mule. I was like, damn, did I ever? So I just think when you get a bunch of like powerful women like that who have in their heart center to lift up other women, it's going to be an amazing night. Like I know that energy, and I'm just dying to have it back.
Yeah.
Well, tell us all the cities that you're going to.
Yeah. Do you guys have all that planned out already?
Yes. So it's March and April of 2022.
Okay.
Vancouver, Kelowna, Calgary, Edmonton, Saskatoon, and Toronto.
Nice.
Like a rock band. Going on tour.
Yeah, you guys should have your tour merch.
Oh,
the
there's
cities
tour
on the
merch.
back.
Don't you worry. We got tour merch in the works.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
We can, well, obviously we'll keep that under the radar, and for everyone listening out there, we have followers like everywhere, even overseas. If you have a chance, make sure you guys check it out. Check out her website. Like there's so much, especially for women. If you're looking for something, there's something there for you. Reach out. Is your family going with you? Are your kids, your hubby, are they touring with you, or do you get to like?
Oh, that's going to be a girls' trip, baby.
This is Mama's
time. Be good. Yes, and I'm not going to do any like major spoilers because this is coming out into the universe very soon, just not yet. But that overseas bit that you just mentioned, watch for that.
Nice.
That's it. Ham's also going on tour with them.
We're tagging along.
We're tagging along just because.
So we love to uplift and talk about our successes, but tell us about a time where you felt like you struggled as a mom or a business owner or a wife or a woman, and how did you overcome that struggle?
I think a lot of times when I lived overseas, I felt, again, very isolated. I didn't have family support. I had girlfriends, but all of my girlfriends were like, they were really intense relationships that were built from new. Like I've known you for 2 months, and now like, here's all my postpartum struggles. Like, do you know what I mean? Because I didn't have like my high school girlfriends or my university friends or my cousins or my mom. Like I didn't have that community where I was living. Plus, I didn't speak the language where I lived when my kids were born. So I couldn't easily join things.
Yeah.
And it wasn't as easy as like, go to mommy and me yoga, go to baby swimming. Like I still did those things, but I did them feeling very much as an outsider.
Yeah.
And so all of that pent up everything, probably in hindsight, got dumped onto my husband.
Yeah.
Thank God he still wanted nap time.
Ooh, you get nap time tonight. No, I'm just kidding. He's going to be like, what podcast did you go on, Lisa? And you just told everybody our business.
And he's so private. It's so funny because he's the opposite of me. I'll be like, what do you want to know? I'll tell you.
Yeah.
And he's like, don't say anything about anything. But I feel like that for me was probably a really hard time. And so what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Yeah.
Again, I think I said this earlier. Use your pain to heal the world. Like whatever you struggle with, that's where your ability to change comes from, I think. And because I felt like I needed that so much, like I needed community, I needed the support of other women, other moms. And so I think that's probably why I value it so much now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that because, you know, as successful and as amazing as your resume is, I mean, we're all human and that's how you can connect with other women.
Yeah. So I always say we can sit here and talk forever because we have lots to ask, but you know, we're only allotted an hour before we get kicked out of here because they're always like, Carlene, you're at your hour. Hurry up. So thank you so much, Lisa, for coming on. And remember, guys, check her out. And she's going to do big things.
Yeah.
But before we go, we wanted to ask you, what do you think is the first step women should take to living their best life?
I think I want to say journal. And by journal, I don't mean dear diary, this is what I did today. I mean write shit down. Write down what you're grateful for. Write down what makes you happy. Write down your big, scary dreams. Write down your goals. I feel like I went through a stage where I was like probably reading too many self-help books. And all of a sudden I was like, I'm going to write down what I want in a husband. And I wrote this like power list. And I basically stopped dating after that because I met my husband. And I have a book where I had like Wine, Women, and Wellbeing Dreams. And I had the Manifest Tour in there, and it wasn't called the Manifest Tour, and it didn't look exactly like it does now. But I'm like, holy shit, I wrote that down. And so I just think that if you write down what you're grateful for and you practice gratitude and kindness, because I do think like a lot of it builds on just being good to other people. But take little steps towards the things that make you happy. If people are toxic, take steps away from those people and towards the people who bring you joy.
Yeah.
And basically that, the people, the things, like anything that you find toxic in your life, just start taking babies. Like you don't have to make crazy drastic changes, but start taking baby steps away from those things that are heavy and move towards the things that bring you happiness.
Yeah.
And then act on those things that you're like, well, wouldn't it be cool if? Like, what's one baby step that you can take to get there? You don't have to like quit your day job and make some crazy, but take small steps towards what might be one day. And then at one point, yeah, maybe you do quit your day job. Maybe that is the next step and you do have to do something crazy and scary, but you don't have to do it from the beginning because that can be really scary and overwhelming.
Yeah.
So I just think do the things that make you happy, the things that you've been like nudged to do, and just start doing them in small ways. And then those small ways add up. Like people who are trying to run a marathon, they don't start by running a marathon. They start by running a kilometer.
Yeah.
And people who want to change their health, they don't like, it doesn't have to be massive. Just like drop the junk and make better choices slowly. And your small decisions become huge changes over time.
Right. Absolutely. Well, thank you again, Lisa. It was such a pleasure to have you here on the show. We learned so much today, as we always do. Guys, be sure to check out Wine, Women, and Wellbeing at www.winewomenwellbeing.com, where you can see the Manifest Tour coming in 2022. It has a great lineup. You don't want to miss it. So that's it for us today, Ham Fam. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel. At the end of the day, remember to wash your hands, wear your masks, and love yourselves even on the hardest days.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, girls.
Thank you.